and today's topic is the biggest barriers that stop businesses from growing. And to unpack further on that, we are joined by Eliah Mutaviri. Welcome back, Eliah. Thank you for joining us again. So what are the barriers that you've seen that stop these businesses from growing?
So the barriers for business growth are not always external from the business. I think one of the things that we see entrepreneurs thinking is that, no, my business is growing because the economy is hard, my business is not growing because the external environment is tight. Yes, that's a factor, but the most common cause of actually, or the most common causes of actual business not growing is internal. Why do I say that? If you look at the business or an entrepreneur who is running their business, the first part which we see as a main one is actually the founder is the barrier. The founder themselves, we call it owner barrier. Then the second one, I would say actually lack of a strategy in actually growing the business, and the strategy will unpack it later on and maybe deal with it more because it's a bit quite long. But if you look at the owner, for example, if you've got a business, the owner dependence is an issue. Why do we say that? Because the business gets built in around the owner. Everything starts with the owner, it finishes with the owner, and that owner dependence actually takes away a lot of things that we need in a business. So the systems are not put together. For example, the sales system or customer acquisition system is not there. You talk about the cash flow system or the finance system of the business, it's around the owner. Then you talk about the operating system on how we deliver services or products, it's around the owner as well. So owner dependence, we see that is the main barrier because the business will not function without actually the owner. It starts and ends with the owner themselves. So apart from the external environment, I think the key factor in growing business on SMEs is that owner dependency is actually the main barrier in growing these businesses.
Okay. So you also mentioned unclear strategies. Can you elaborate on that? Like, how does unclear strategy block the growth for these businesses?
I always say this, that if growth is not engineered, it's accidental. So in other words, if there is no strategy to say, in this business, this is what we do, this is how we do it, this is how we generate value, and this is how we deliver our product or service, there's no plan. In other words, everybody just does whatever is there for the day or whatever we find out to be doing for that day. So if you don't have a strategy, or if you don't have a compass, a strategy is a compass where the business is going. If you say right now, for example, I'm traveling, you're traveling to where? That's the strategy. If you're traveling, no, I'm going to Polokwane, you are going to, there is a center point. So the strategy actually gives the business strategic focus. So if it's not there, we grow accidentally, we do whatever comes by whim, and that is very dangerous because we end up doing everything. We don't know which customers are we serving, we don't know the product lines that are actually good for our business, we do not have a strategic fit in terms of the customers that we are taking, we haven't defined the operating system of the business in terms of how to deliver value, there's no value proposition in terms of what we actually do as a business. So growth in that type of setup, it's difficult. The financial system of the business, the cash flow system, the owners in and out, there's personal finances mixed with the business. So it's havoc, it's chaos. So you cannot grow a business with an unclear strategy, and you cannot grow a business where there's owner dependency.
So what if one of the viewers is one of, is an owner, it's like, Eliah, but then how do I know that my business actually has these barriers? How do I know that my business has these barriers? What would you say to those owners?
Thank you. So on that, the first thing that the owner needs to do or the founder needs to do, they need to look at their role first in the business. Which part of the business are they invited? Are they invited from A to Z? So let's say the business has got a new customer or a new order for that instance. Are they needed from when the order has arrived? Are they needed, at what level are they needed in the business? That part actually helps you actually break down that cycle of dependency. Because if you are needed from A to Z of a process of delivering a product or service in your business, it surrounds you. Because the other thing which they can do, they can take 5 days off. Okay? They can take 5 days off and leave the business and see it's functioning. And that's one key criteria of seeing that you have got a business. Because if you can still function, then there's something. But if then they are off and their phone is always ringing, they are off, then things comes to a standstill. Then definitely there's no business there. It depends. So there is no brand without identifying itself as the owner. So if you remove the owner, the brand crashes. And that's the challenge. So they can take that test and say like, can I go on holiday for 7 days in my business and come back and find a business? Or I'll come back and find the floor. So that's one key area of testing. Then the second aspect is they need to check if actually they have systems in the business. So a strategy first, who are you serving? And how are you going to save them? That's the systems. Then they go further to check, are we delivering as per what they intend to do? So this is the systems part where it starts with the strategy, value proposition, the product or service you're delivering. They need to check that. And the owner will know, the founder will know, the entrepreneur knows that, you know what, I do not have an SOP. I don't have a standard operating procedure in my business. So Katlego knows, okay, this is what I do, and whatever the case is, she just does whatever she sees fit. And as long as we invoice and we get some money at the end of the day, the owner knows that, you know what, I don't have a structure in my business. And go there, starts there. Do you have ask these questions. Do you have a structure in the business? Does your staff know what they need to do without you getting involved? Does your staff know how to actually serve a customer from A to Z without you involved? If you ask those questions, say yes, then clearly you've got a growth formula which is working. But if the answer is no, you need to go and actually put those systems in place. And putting those systems in place doesn't mean that you have to do it yourself. That's why we're here. We help businesses actually put the systems in order to then build themselves and build a business beyond themselves. Because once you surround your business around yourself, there's no break in your life. The business actually thrives based on your availability. What if you end up in a hospital? What if you die? And that's the uncomfortable truth I'm talking about. What if you fall down and die today? Then what happens? What happens to the people we have employed? So those are the key questions I think the owner needs to ask themselves to say, like, let's say I just end up in the hospital right now. I can't function on my phone. I can't do anything. What happens? Ask yourself that question. You end up in a hospital bed and you can't touch your phone. You can't do anything. Will you come out of hospital with a business waiting for you? And that's a very, very important test. If your answer is no, you need to start now and putting in something very important, which is a growth formula for a business. Because right now, in that case, the business is you. Remember, our bodies are temporary. We are biological. We are living. We have got a start. We have got a best before that. We are born and we will die, and in between we can get sick. So if your business is going to be affected by your own sickness, then affects your business, then there's a big problem. There's a massive, massive problem. When you get sick as an entrepreneur, deal with the health issues, what is the business going? That's what they need to do. If you as a business owner die, there should be continuity in your business. And this is the reality of actually having a business. You need to see past yourself. Because I believe that when you are building a business, you're building a system that helps other people. Not just you benefit from the business, but I think it's an ecosystem that helps other people, the community you're serving, your employees. And so you need to look it beyond you and say, like, how can I leave a legacy in my business? And the first stress test is to say, if I leave my business for 7 days, will I come back to a business or I come back to nothing? And I think that stress test will tell you if the business actually has got capacity to grow or not.
There is a very good point. And then if you are an owner out there, ask yourself the same question. Can you leave your phone off for 7 days and come back to find your business still functional? So thank you very much for that point. And to add into that, the growth formula is for you if you're thinking twice, if you have to think about that. So another question that I'm going to ask is about what about pricing for the barrier, as a barrier?
Look, so here is one key element I see in businesses that when coming to pricing, business owners, they price out of fear. They price saying, if I price this way, I'm going to lose this. I'm going to lose the customer. I'm not going to get the order. That's how they price. The key question here is why? why are you afraid of pricing the way you are supposed to price? You understand? I think that's you need to sorry, you need to ask yourself, why am I in this situation where I can't put forward my price? The reason with that is that there is no value proposition. Because here is how pricing works. People pay for value, right? If you are providing A and you are actually charging Z, the math doesn't work. If you are providing a value for 500 Rand, you can't charge 1,000 Rand. It doesn't work. So you need to, the owner needs to actually, or the entrepreneur, the founder, you need to go and define your value proposition. How do you deliver value to a customer? What is the value that you are delivering to them? And when you have that value, you are comfortable in charging it. But if you do not have it, that confidence in what you are doing, you can go around and just charging high prices because you're thinking people will think that you are strong and this is you are nation. No. So pricing becomes a barrier in the sense that if you haven't defined your value proposition, you can't charge high prices. So now you just charge out of fear and you stay within yourself in that service. Like, I can't go further. But you can charge more if you just take steps and define, actually call it not just a value proposition. If you get into the growth formula, growth formula has got 4 pillars, and the first one is actually customer acquisition system. That's where price is held in, where you actually have to define a value proposition, be in a position where we charge the right price that is commensurate to your services, and be confident with that. And you can defend your pricing. Your customer asks you, oh, Mr. AB, this is expensive. You can defend it. But then if they come and say to you, this is expensive, you're like, okay, I'm going to give you another 10% discount. They say like, no, but why didn't you give us the discount in the first place? So you can defend your pricing if you are confident and comfortable with the systems that we have internally. Because if you don't have the systems to deliver, you can charge something very high, but here's the challenge. You still need to deliver. Either it's a quality product or quality service. So it's very important to actually have a proper understanding of how do you price. And also, what criteria are you pricing on? You can't price based on competition. You don't know what's happening in the competitor's business. Your costs and the competitor's costs are not the same. So you need to actually have got a proper plan in terms of pricing. You can't just price. We see it in transport logistics that people just price. They see down like, okay, from here to go to Midland, I think I can charge this. That guesswork doesn't work. When you price it, there is engineering behind pricing. There is proper processes, which actually shows that you're making good margins. Because if you price so bad out of fear, you get the order. Here's the thing, you're going to run out of cash because there's not enough profit, right? Your systems, your people need to get paid. You need to pay for the system that you're using. You get that. So you run out of cash, which is the financial system or the cash flow system we're talking about earlier on. So you are just creating a problem for yourself by actually charging that way. And you should not be in there if you've got a growth formula in a business. You should not be in that situation because you won't find yourself there because you have got a formula that actually works to say, when I'm pricing, these are the factors we consider, this is our margins, and this is the customers we're serving, and this is how, and with experience, when you actually do that and you're working within your niche, the area that you're serving, pricing becomes easy. You don't price out of fear. You're confident with your pricing to say, this is the price we put forward, and customers will buy from it. And you go and deliver the quality and service. And I can tell you, they'll go and refer other people. So pricing is very key in the sense that if you're pricing out of fear, you're going to erode margins, cause cash flow problems in your business while you're trying to grow it. How do you avoid that? Stop. Define your value proposition. Build the systems around it. See that the pricing actually aligns with the other internal elements of the business. You are making the right margins, and you actually then go and be able to deliver. So that's what I would say in terms of pricing. That's what they need to look at in terms of actually growing.
So what I'm picking up from the pricing, the main element there is your standard operating procedures. So you are basically saying that if you don't have standard operating procedures in place, you are at high risk. Is that what you are?
Definitely. I think there is a big element on that because your pricing is, if it's not, you don't have it in your standard operating procedure, how is your staff going to know how to price? In other words, it's sitting in your heads. So it becomes a challenge because if once you put it on a document, it becomes easier. But if it sits in your head as a founder or owner, your staff won't know. So you need to have procedures, also know how to deliver and how to actually deliver the product or service. That actually helps. Even if one of the staff members leave, the other one will come in and you show them this is our process, and then it goes on like that.
So how do you know as an owner that you have the right pricing in place? What if my company is actually generating multiple profits for the past years and all of that? Can I be certain for sure that the pricing is on point?
So for you to see that there is a pricing issue, it normally reflects in the cash flow. Yeah, that's where it shows you that you've got a pricing issue. Remember, there's a cycle here. So when you look at the pricing, right, remember your price, then there's your costs. And remember, only your profit comes into your bank account. Yes, the customer pays you in the full invoice price, but you're going to pay for the costs related to that product. So what remains in your bank account is the profit. So that's why I'm saying it shows in the cash flow. So let's say if you're charging R1 million and your cost is 950 rand, only 50,000 remains. But if your cost structure of your operating systems, your staff is huge, you will see on your bank statement that yes, we are invoicing these big amounts, but what is being left after we pay everything? It's almost nothing. Actually, not pay everything. Probably you can't even pay the staff. So that's where you see the issue that there's a pricing issue. Cash flow gets affected because it's not a standalone system. So if you always have cash flow issues in your business, there's a pricing issue because you are not pricing fairly. And I'm not saying the reason is because you are charging low. No, you might actually charging the right price for that particular product. You might need a different product or service. So it's not something that you can just take from this discussion and say like, no, I've got a cash flow problem, I've got a pricing issue, I need to increase my price. No. No, it doesn't work like that. So that needs to be analyzed. It needs to be looked at. And that you need to look at that in detail to see what is the real cause. But if you see that there's cash flow issues, it can be linked to pricing because what's left after your cost of that product or cost of delivering that service is what's remaining for the business to utilize to pay for its operating expenses. So if there isn't almost nothing left, then there's a huge issue in terms of margins there. There's a problem, yeah.
So one of the things that you mentioned, you spoke about owner dependency as a builder.
Yeah.
So how does that affect the growth of these businesses?
I always say this, that one is a number too small to build anything great. It's very small. So if everything is surrounded, if you are the alpha and omega of your business, that's a big problem. Because let's just say for argument's sake, you want to bounce some ideas. You bounce them on your own. you can't do that. You're gonna have, remember we spoke about the 4 pillars of the growth system, our growth formula, where we talk about the customer acquisition system, cash flow system, operating system, and staff system. These 4 pillars are key. And you can't have these 4 pillars only one. It doesn't work. You need staff to run your operating system, to run your cash flows, to run your customer acquisition. So when you are just you in your business, you are blocking the growth. And it's very important to analyze to see where the business is. Now it's time to add a new staff member. Now it's time to add another person. But that needs to be done carefully, looking at the cash flows and the way the business is. That's where help is needed. Because if you hire too quickly as well, as the owner, you run into problems. So the owner yourself, you become a bottleneck in the sense that you do A to Z, while the business requires other hands to help you in the process. And I think we spoke earlier on about the owner getting sick. If you get sick and you're in the hospital, the business doesn't run. If you die, the business dies with you. So the owner should then look at, how do I make my business beyond me? How do I have a business beyond myself? That's where you put the growth formula and start doing these things slowly. And I can tell you this, it's not a quick fix. And I'm not saying, don't get me wrong, I'm not saying being on your own is a bad thing. You start your business on your own. It's not like sometimes you just think of an idea or a product and you start it on your own. But it's important then to take it further and actually say, let me bring Katlo in here, let's work together to grow this thing. Let me bring Rose here, let's grow this thing to grow this business. So that's the key element. But if you keep on staying alone, and also even when you bring more people, give them responsibilities. The staff system is talk about skill set and capacity. Give them the responsibility to execute the work without you, so that you are in a capacity to go on a holiday without checking your phone. It's important to do that. So it's important to then remove yourself as the barrier, because with some founders, what we see, it's very difficult to let go. And they actually think that it's only them who can do it, which means there's a problem in if it's only you who can do it, there's a problem in the hiring, which means you are not hiring the right personnel. Because if you hire the right people, you are in a position to give them responsibilities and they deliver. So it comes back to you as the founder of the business. Because if there is a real issue, for example, that you're saying, no, nobody can do this, it's only me who can do it. Only you. You can do it the whole world over. Only you, one person. Then we'll definitely be dying, all of us. So there's other people who can do it. So the issue there, the owner will be blocking that by not getting the right talent to come and join. And you don't have to hire everybody at the same time. Get one person, you are two. When as the business scales, you are three, like that. Then you continue to grow. But if you then, as you're doing that, you still keep all the processes to yourself. You don't document processes and say like, this is our standard operating procedure in terms of our sales process, in terms of customer service, all those things, you need to document them so that when you give it to the employee and they read this standard operating procedure, they don't have to run back to you if they don't know what to do. They can go and refer. That's how you remove that dependence. They will go and refer to this document and say, okay, this is where I am and this is what I need to do. Then they go and do it. But if you say everything is in your head, I think that's where the challenge is. You keep everything to yourselves and you're saying like, I do everything. And one area which I see, it's important actually, I would say so, that we see owners becoming a barrier is actually on the finance side, all right? In the sense that they don't allow analysis, or they don't do proper analysis, or they don't get help. I'm not saying you should be an expert in numbers. The numbers don't lie to you as a founder of the business. That's a fact. Numbers tell you the truth. So when a cash flow issue is coming, your numbers will show that it's coming. But the owners, they actually measure it by looking at the bank account. That's the wrong way of looking at it. When you look at the bank account, the problem has arrived. Okay? It's with you, it has arrived. But if you actually look at the numbers, you should see that coming the end of the month, looking at our cash flow, we're going to have problems in paying our suppliers. We're going to have problems paying our staff. So then you can make enough plans already in advance. But if you sit there and say like, you wake up every day and go and check that bank balance, it doesn't change because you are looking at it a lot of times, okay? You need to have a plan in place. Checking your bank balance is not cash flow management, okay? It's not. The owner needs to remove themselves from a bottom point of view. If it's a cash flow thing, what is your data process looking like? Your collection procedures. Do you have a procedure to collect the data? That's what you need to be focusing on, not checking on a bank account all the time. Focus on how is our customers paying on time? No, they're paying late. What's the issue? Go resolve that. That's what fixes your problem. So owners need, I think they need to make use of reports. They help you. Financial reports tell you the story of where the business is going. Utilize that, remove yourself from every single process and get the right people to help you, and then the business will start to grow beyond you.
Okay. So then are you saying that owner dependency blocks also succession planning?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. So if it's just you as the owner, who is succeeding you? It's you are the alpha and the omega of the business. So there is no succession plan in terms of if something happens, who takes over? And this thing of not having systems is where succession fails, because if you don't have operating procedures, if you don't have anything documented or the steps documented in your business, if you are unable to perform those functions which are performing, who is going to know what to do? Who's going to know what to do next? they'll be looking for you in the grave and come and knock at your grave and say, like, listen, we are stuck here. What do we do? So that it's key to actually have this, document your procedures, so that even after your life is gone, the business continues. That's leaving a legacy. That's building a legacy.
Right, I like that. So business owners should stop on having on their knowledge. Let's expand our businesses and
100%.
like that.
100%.
Okay. And then what is the role in reporting in removing growth barriers?
I think with reports or reporting, I think the key element is to remove guesswork. So with the founders, let me tell you something. There are certain decisions that we make with a whim, or like you just make them. It's okay. But there are key decisions in business where you cannot make with a whim. You need to sit down, analyze numbers, and say, let's make decisions based on facts, not guesswork. Guesswork is what we call accidental growth, going to make you crash. So the report tells you the story of what happened in the last month. This is what happened last month. So how do we then change what's undesirable in the coming month? You understand? That's what you need to do. We see that our margins were low last month. We gave so much discount. Okay, this month we need to be careful. You understand? So it tells you, when you analyze your reports, it tells you what you need, already where the issues are. We see that our cash flow is low, but our debtors balance is big. What we need to do, we need to have a proper policy in terms of debt collection. We need to change some. So that's what reporting does. It takes away guesswork. Because when you are guessing, we don't know what exactly what you are looking for. How do you cure a disease which you don't know what it is? You can't give a solution to a problem which you don't know, you see? So that's the role of reporting. It removes guesswork and gives you the reality to say, this is the problem, then you find a solution to fix it.
And I'm sure it also allows you to pick up those problems while it's still on the
early. Yes, you're definitely right. While it's early, before you crash, you actually see, no, we are going to crash there. Let's avert the disaster. Then you actually make the changes. So it's very, very important to utilize reports. Yeah.
Okay. And then what is the action step for this episode?
I would say, because we're talking about barriers, I think asking ourselves or founders, asking the question why is key. But ask it 5 times. So if there's no money in the business, ask why don't we have money in the business? Because customers pay late. Why are customers paying late? Because there is no a proper policy, collection policy or data collection policy. Why is there no proper debt collection policy? Because we didn't put a debt collection policy. Do you see? So you need to continue asking the why at least 5 times so that you get to the root cause of the problem. So you are now having a cash flow problem because the real issue is that you didn't put a policy in place in the beginning. You see? So, but you start by asking yourself, look at the problem. Why do we have this problem? And ask the why, at least 5 times. You will get to the root cause of the problem. Why is that we don't have customers? Because we don't have a system that acquires customers. Why don't we have a system for customer acquisition? Because we didn't put one in place. Why didn't we put one in place? Because we do not know how to put one in place. Then go hire somebody who will help you. Go hire growth partners who will help you put that. So asking yourselves why 5 times, at least 5 times, will help you to the root cause of the problem, and then you address the root cause. And when you address the real problem, you actually get to now unlock growth. And I would say as well, application of the 4 pillars of growth formula is one key thing which we saw, because it touches on the 4 key elements, the 4 legs of growth. And when those are actually, when somebody takes that and applies that to their business, we have seen very, 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 very good improvement in business growth. And as we chat with the entrepreneurs, we actually see that there's more problems that we initially thought they are out there. But what we see, the growth formula works.
Thank you very much. That was very much insightful, and you had it for yourself. The growth formula does work. So we'll definitely see you again on the next episode. Thank you for being with us and for tuning with us. Bye.